DAZ 3D has just released a new free version of Studio, updating to 4.23, and releasing at the same time is a new optional subscription version that comes with many new features. DAZ Studio Premier is a new commercial version of the program and can only be acquired as part of DAZ's $18.98 Premier subscription. To judge by comments on their YouTube channel, the response appears to have been universally and aggressively negative, while responses on their official forum have been neutral, focusing instead on questions about how to access the subscription. But we live in confrontational times, and frankly, DAZ could have offered £1 million to each user, and many would still have complained that it didn't arrive quickly enough or come in the right bag. The truth is, the release is slightly more nuanced, and while the Premiere subscription will not be for most people, there are reasons to consider it if you are a specific type of user. I'll start with the thing that has perhaps caused the most anger among users: the lack of valuable new features in the non-paid version. People complain that the program is not quick enough to implement new features and has not had significant upgrades in a long time. In fact, Studio receives updates from time to time, such as the D-Force cloth simulator and volumetrics for creating smoke and fire. What it does not receive are new version number releases containing a whole bunch of requested features in one go. Users seem to forget that DAZ Studio is a free program, yet they complain as though they had paid a professional price for it. I will return to that though. There is a handful of trivial new features in the free version: a cleaner interface, better compatibility of Genesis 8 figures to wear Genesis 9 clothes, industry standard hotkeys, interactive tutorials, and better exporting. However, the significant changes are to be found in the premium version. This is not the first time that DAZ has attempted to sell a pro version with lots of paid add-ons. The previous attempt ended in failure, with them currently offering that version for free. DAZ Studio Pro was aimed at power users and content creators, and it never gained enough sales traction for DAZ to continue selling it. This time around, the company has changed the sales model and attempted to sweeten the deal. I'll start by looking at the Premiere subscription package, as this is the area where DAZ has endeavoured to add value to the program. At almost $19 per month, that amounts to $227.76 per year. Stop subscribing and you instantly lose access to all the program benefits except some of the free models. This makes its main rival, Poser's one-off $200 price tag, look a lot more attractive, especially as it comes with hundreds of models that you get to keep forever. So what do you get for the money? For many people, the new version of DAZ Studio Premier will be the primary benefit, and we'll get onto its features soon. You also get what DAZ describes as free monthly legacy content. It's hardly free if you paid for it as part of a package, is it? DAZ claims that these products are some of its best sellers. This month there were decent and varied items, and you get to keep all of them beyond your membership. In addition to the legacy content, you'll receive the latest Genesis 9 Essentials Morph Kit. I suspect that many users will already own these, but if you don't, they're a nice way to add a little value, although it's a one-off sign-up sweetener rather than an ongoing monthly benefit. You also get a free character bundle each month. Again, not free if they're part of the bundle you paid for. This month, there is a selection of 8 bundles to choose from, including the latest cartoon manga versions of Mikey and Vicky, and some slightly older bundles. I noticed that the former bundle versions of these have been removed from the store to create artificial scarcity and value, which is not a tactic I respect. I don't understand why DAZ did this, as the bundles are genuinely good value between $25 and $50 each, and don't need to be removed from the store to make them so. Quite the opposite. This is a deeply unpopular tactic used by the gaming industry, where content is carved away from a finished game only to sell it to you separately. I am happy that DAZ offered a choice of bundles rather than imposing a single option on you. I noticed that people complained that the free DAZ Plus legacy content tended to be so old and low quality that it was of no use, but that is definitely not the case here. The premium and legacy content will enhance your library. There is also exclusive Premiere only content which cannot be purchased and which is no longer available the moment you end your subscription. This month it appears to be G9 head morphs. I say it appears because at the time of writing, a week after purchase, I've not yet managed to access this content. Update. The Available tab takes literally minutes to update. This month's content is shown here. ICO 9 is pretty much the only worthwhile item to me, and declining to sell it on the store is a shitty tactic. Also, stripping this content away the second you end your subscription is a truly sleazy pressure tactic, and I'm certain there are workarounds which I'll be exploring. The remaining benefits are what is colloquially known as a confusopoly of discounts and tokens, designed either to trick you into spending more or, depending on your perspective, to reward people who already spend a lot each month in the DAZ store. A confusopoly is a range of options and prices that are designed specifically to make it confusing to recognise what is actually being offered and what its true value is. In this case, you get an extra 10% off purchases of DAZ Plus items. DAZ Plus is the monthly $10 membership that provides discounts on software. Premiere also provides 35% off DAZ Originals, compared to 30% off for DAZ Plus members. In addition, you get a further $10 off DAZ Originals. Whether that is $10 per month or per purchase is not made clear. You also get $10 off selected non-DAZ products costing $25 or more. You also earn tokens for every $5 spent, which is twice the rate as DAZ Plus members. Here's where things really start to get confusing. Tokens accrue, giving an additional percentage discount. One token gives 7% off your cart, up to 8 tokens which gives 30%. They must be spent within 2 weeks, despite the membership lasting a month, which is another nasty and insidious additional spending pressure. So now you are encouraged to spend at least $40 to accrue the maximum tokens, then spend a second time to benefit from them. There is no word on whether these also cross-multiply with sales. I understand why DAZ can offer better discounts on homegrown content. After all, they don't need to split the profits with a content creator. But it does make the membership decision more complicated, as there are two vastly different discount structures. When you need to open a spreadsheet to calculate benefits, that's a classic confusopoly, and frankly, it's a part of DAZ's increasingly skeezy practices recently, along with worthless NFTs and 3D printing licenses. That said, if you are a person who regularly spends $45 a month on DAZ Originals, or $100 a month on a variety of content, then this membership will pay for itself, and in addition, you'll get to enjoy all the benefits of the new version of DAZ Premier. To most people, this is simply a scheme to maintain constant pressure on them, not only to buy, but to significantly up their spending. Or, looking at it another way, it's a $19 a month lucky dip, with a bundle and legacy content being the return. However, to many people, DAZ Studio Premier is the not quite spectacular jewel in the crown of this new offering, and the one part that will be most likely to persuade them to subscribe. But before you can use it, you have to install it, and that can be a mission in itself. You can update to the latest version of Studio via the DAZ Install Manager, DIM. In fact, that's the only way to install it now. I don't know when DAZ removed the option to download the program and install it at your convenience, but I don't like that they have removed that option. It's about DAZ taking control. It means that you must download each time you install, and it means that reinstalls are at DAZ's consent. If their site is down, or they get bought out, or you have a connection problem, or you want to install on multiple computers, you lose the ability to reinstall it in the future. And yes, I know the program is free, so we have no right to complain, but all of the software we bought on the promise of ongoing program access is not free. Anyway, once you've paid for the Premiere subscription, installed the program, and provided you run the program in online mode, you'll automatically be using the Premiere version. Except you won't, not fully. Several of the features must be manually installed via DIM, and at the time of writing, after several hours of trying, following their tutorial video to the letter, and reading dozens of comments from others with varieties of the same problem, many of the features and all of the content is not installed. And that brings me to one of the ongoing problems I have with DAZ. Their manuals are absolutely abysmal, and that's if they exist at all. They just released a new program complete with loads of complicated add-ons, many of which are not obvious to find, and DAZ has not explained how to install them, how to find them, nor how to use them. It would be frustrating if the program was free, but at $200 a year it's unforgivable. The list of new Premiere features is pretty meagre, less than half a dozen so far as I can see, and each of them is kind of niche, so any given user will be lucky to use even 3 of them, I suspect. The first selling point on the Premiere advert reads, quote, "Whether it's the classic Genesis 3, the popular Genesis 8 and 8.1, or the advanced Genesis 9, users can choose from a wide range of assets and character shapes and use them directly in DAZ Studio Premier." When one of your selling points does exactly what the program has done for the past 10 years, you either need to try harder or fire your marketing department. The first proper feature listed is Geometry Sculptor. This works like a vastly simplified version of ZBrush, or ZBrush if you speak proper English, enabling you to sculpt the surface geometry of your figures with a brush as though they were made of clay. You can also pull the polygons around as though they are magnetized. This can be useful in developing new products or even for the hobbyist user who simply wants to make some tweaks, increasing the size of a cheekbone here, adding worry lines there, or adjusting clothing to fit outside an underlying geometry, or hiding hair inside a hat, for example. Many claim that this function was already provided in the form of a plugin sold by Man Friday called Mesh Grabber, which is sold for $41 or $61 for the comprehensive toolset. It has been suggested that this plugin and several others were bought by DAZ and incorporated into the program. This seems to have got people pretty riled up, but if they want the tool so much, this one is still available for purchase, if you prefer not to go the subscription route. It would be fair to say that this tool is a superior version of Mesh Grabber with additional functionality. It can be found under the Tools menu, but then there are extensive options under the right button, enabling you to switch between Mesh Grab and Sculpt modes. Each tool has its place in your toolset. I might add that for over a decade, Poser has by default included both of them in the form of magnets, equivalent to Mesh Grabber, and the morphing tool, which does what Geometry Sculptor does. But the new DAZ version is a lot more free-flowing and combines both into a single tool, albeit with less options. The next item on DAZ's list of benefits says, quote, "There are no creative limits with our advanced content converters, designed to convert assets and shapes from previous Genesis generations to Genesis 9. This sounds a lot more promising as it enables you to convert shapes and poses between Genesis versions. So if you have, say, a creature based on Genesis 3, you can convert the shaping morphs to Genesis 9 so that it can utilize newer clothes or geometry. Given the practice of many content creators of remastering their old figures for the latest Genesis characters, this will make them much more efficient. As a content creator, the ability to convert poses between versions is also a time saver. Such tools already exist in the form of the Pose Converter series from ZevZero and Bitwielder. This costs $25 to convert a figure to any other, or $50 per figure bundle. That enables you to convert a single figure in both directions, from Genesis 9 to 3 or 3 to 9 for instance. So the ability to do so natively within Premiere represents a decent value if it is something you often do. Given the enormous library of poses on the DAZ site, pose conversion has a lot of utility, and you can use it to convert older commercial collections for your own use as well. Allegedly, it only works with figures as far back as Genesis 3. Now all you have to do is find where DAZ has buried the tool. If you find it, let me know where it is. The render queue is a valuable tool, enabling you to set up multiple renders when you have finished setting up your scenes, perhaps rendering overnight or while you do something else. Poser has had a queue manager for a long time, so it's surprising that it's taken DAZ so long to get around to it natively. This is another of Man Friday's scripts of the same name, and the product on the DAZ store now shows as inactive, so this is the only way to acquire it. DAZ is making the case for piracy quite effectively. Although I didn't experience it, I did read multiple Redditors complaining that the renderer in the latest version seems very unstable, falling over entirely when rendering animations, due perhaps to its greater use of GPU memory. I find that DAZ Studio is pretty resource hungry at the best of times, given that it maximizes use of both your GPU and CPU. This is a good thing because it means faster rendering, but it feels to me as though the program renders far slower than Poser, although the quality is significantly superior. Another new feature comes in the form of the Simulation Manager. Suppose you are testing a scene with multiple simulations, say cloth, volumetric smoke and a flame. You may not wish to calculate all of them simultaneously, perhaps preferring a layered approach where you might just calculate the flames to configure them. Nor would you want the simulation reset button to reset all simulations. Now, while you are tweaking your sims, via toggle switches in the simulation pane, you can switch off all but the one you are working on, allowing for much faster scene tuning. One set of features that makes me scratch my head are the enhanced export tools. For example, Premiere has a rig conversion system that enables you to export your figure rigs in various popular industry standard formats such as MetaHuman, Unreal Engine, and Maximo. The latter then facilitates the addition of motion captured animation for export to other programs such as Blender or even back into Studio. I'm probably out of touch with the intended customer for this feature because I don't see DAZ content used in non-hobbyist animation markets. I seem to remember that DAZ tried hard to court the games development community in the past, and some might say it was to the detriment of their core users. A more comprehensible new feature is export to Blender and Maya. Blender is a popular free 3D modeling and animation program, while Maya is a full-fat equivalent used by movie and advertising professionals. I can see the point in exporting figures or scenes to another free program, but are there really many Maya professionals out there using DAZ as their starting position? Poser used to include a suite of plugins called Fusion, which enabled you to exchange Poser scenes with other industry standard programs, including my tool of choice, 3D Studio Max. I found it useful when developing new props that I wanted to interact with figures. DAZ was late to that party with its own suite of bridge scripts that served as an interface between Studio and other programs, including Maya, Blender, Unreal, Cinema 4D and 3D Studio Max. This seems to have been abandoned for some of the programs, including Max and Cinema 4D, with export profiles woefully out of date. Continuing to support the hobbyist Blender exporter makes excellent sense, but it's sad to see the other programs abandoned. That concludes the new functionality in Premiere. Your mileage will depend upon how much you need its tools. I'll be honest, I never got as far as using the new features. I installed and reinstalled the program, watched and rewatched the tutorial videos, scoured the manuals and the forums, and none of the content or tools was visible or available. I put in a support ticket and a week later, despite receiving 4 advertising emails in that period telling me how great my subscription supposedly is, I've not heard from anybody that could help me to actually use my purchase. That's 25% of my subscription wasted because DAZ is too cheap to provide decent support. They're all too eager to take your money but not bothered about doing the things that will enable you to actually use your purchase. Update. After a week without any of the new stuff, I came across a post by Jay Vaslui, who kindly explained how to access all the features, except the pose converter, which is still absent without leave. Thanks, Jay. So, should you buy DAZ Premier? If you are a huge and regular purchaser of DAZ content, then undoubtedly yes. Even if you never use the program features, assuming you can work out how to even install and find them without DAZ's help, membership will save you money. If you are a user who makes money from DAZ, especially interoperating with other programs, then you'll find the new tools helpful. Although at $227.76 per year, they are massively overpriced in my opinion. If you are not one of those two special cases, then the case for purchase is less clear. The morph tool and pose converter are potentially the most useful features to me, but if you are an animator or simply render a lot of images, the render queue will be valuable. But ultimately, it feels like a lot of money for a few features. People claim that the DAZ forums are moderated to eliminate dissent, but their YouTube page is completely dominated by people raging against Premiere. Frankly, most of them seem disconnected from reality, suggesting, for instance, that learning Blender or Unreal Engine is a better alternative. Although both are admittedly impressive programs, it will take years for you to learn Blender or Unreal to the level a total beginner can use DAZ Studio in a day. But among the many whining muppets, people objecting to the price of this version and the fact that the program features should have been included in the free version are unquestionably making valid points. Yes, Studio is free, but it's only given away as a vehicle for the far more lucrative content market. DAZ never gave it away out of altruism. What I hate about this pricing model is that you are not buying the program, only renting it. You could pay $1,000 in subscription fees, and the second you stop paying, you lose the program and the special content. But it's not simply the price that upsets people, it's the pricing model. We are overwhelmed by goddamn subscriptions. Adobe software, TV packages, Amazon, games, even razors and water. And all that's on top of the non-optional services we all must pay. There has to be a limit to how much people can pay out every month. Subscriptions are a way for companies like DAZ to keep reaching into your pocket without providing additional value. If DAZ Studio Premier was sold for a one-off price of $100 and you keep the program forever, it would still be a questionable value proposition. But at $227 per year and you don't even keep the software, I think people's outrage is well justified, especially as this entire package is little more than a high-pressure vehicle to encourage you to spend even more. I could understand the need to charge a monthly fee if DAZ was constantly reinvesting that money into developing the program, but frankly this feels more like a low-effort cash grab designed to target our market's whales. In gaming, whales are the small minority of wealthy users who spend a high amount on nonsense microtransactions such as character skins and loot boxes, and for whom games are ruined for everyone else in an effort to get them to spend vast amounts of money. Over the past couple of years, as a company, DAZ 3D has gone down a path of showing growing disdain, even outright contempt for their most dedicated users, with one scammy product after another. Like Bondware, they want to continue milking their cash cow by selling content while doing virtually nothing to retain, much less reward their users. If the programmers were 10% as busy as their marketing team, we'd all be a lot happier.